Hi, everyone. My name is Al DeWitt, and I'm the academic chair for the metals processing trades throughout the province of New Brunswick for NBCC. The programs we're going to talk about today include welding, which most people have some appreciation for what it is, welding fabricator, steel fabrication, machining, CNC machining, and finally welding technology. Most of the programs we're going to talk about are one-year programs with two exceptions, one being the CNC machining program, the other is welding technology. We're going to have a look at each of these programs with a little bit of depth just to give you some concept of what you might be getting into or what you might be thinking about, and hopefully you can get a better understanding for each of these potential choices for you. If you want any further information, you can contact me directly by email at al.dewitt@nbcc.ca. I'd be glad to help you out with any of your questions. So toward the end of the presentation, we may take a couple of minutes to talk about NBCC and apprenticeship and how those two are related. Apprenticeship being the way that one gets licensed with respect to trades. So to start off with, generally, all of our one-year programs and our trades programs have a bit of a similar structure. They're about 50% practical, that would mean shop time or lab time if that's the case, and about 40 to 50% theory. So it's a good mix of both. In order to be a really good tradesperson, you have to have a good appreciation for the technology that supports what you're actually trying to do. With our trades programs, very quickly, the entrance requirements for our one-year trades programs are generally what we call Profile A, and you can find a little bit more detailed information on Profile A at nbcc.ca. Pick the program and it will tell you what exactly you need to actually get in. The only exception to what we're talking about today is our welding technology program, which is a Profile B entrance requirement, which generally adds, it's the same as Profile A, but it adds some mathematics to that, which is very important to that particular technology. So you can again find that in detail at nbcc.ca. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'll just share a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation with you just to give you some idea of what's going on. And we will we'll talk as much as possible about what's happening with each of these trades in a little bit of detail. Just take me a second to get this going. Okay, so NBCC basically is made up of 5 campuses, all of which, except for our Fredericton campus, I guess, 5 out of 6 campuses have or contain trades programs. So Fredericton is the only sort of exception to that, although there is some automotive training in the Fredericton area for trades related subject material. But for metals processing, we're generally in St. Andrews, we're in Woodstock, we're in Miramichi, we're in Moncton and St. John. So I'll just give you an idea of where those are as we go. So the first program that we're going to have a quick look at, let me just get this thing changed in slides here. Oh yeah, this is one of our newer facilities just before we get going. NBCC has embarked upon a fairly ambitious capital program to replace some of its aging facilities, and this happens to be our technology building at our St. John campus. So St. John campus actually received a new trades training building, as did Moncton, as does some new training, trades training facilities, as did Miramichi, and so did St. Andrews a few years back. So our facilities are really quite well up to date. So, okay, so let's look at welding. Welding is offered as a pure welding program at our Moncton campus and our St. John campus, and generally is available at our St. Andrews campus. This year it's been suspended for a year, just to kind of create some more interest in that area. So as it stands right now, the welding programs are available at St. John and Moncton. Now, what we have here is a picture of a welder doing some stainless steel pipe. What I've done here is I've put some of the curriculum that, or the courses, the list of courses that are offered in each program. So we'll start with welding here. Generally, when you look at this list, there are a number of core courses that pretty well all metals trades will get. And they would typically be bench work would be one of them, of some format of bench work, which means basic hand tools and what that means to each trade. There's a whole lot of shop safety that would be in every trades program. Blueprint reading, which is further down the list, would also be pretty common to all of the programs we have. Generally, you would see the study of metallurgy, which is really the science of the properties of metals, also being part of that, because that's really important, whether you're a machinist or a welding technologist or a welder. Mathematics is another one. We have a couple of math courses that each trade takes, and they're not, really, I would say, difficult math courses. The first one is generally a review course for more or less people who've been out of the picture for a little while. It's probably at the grade 7, 8, and 9 level with respect to what it offers for the first math course. The second of math that we offer in our trades is generally tailored for the trade itself. For example, in welding, one of the really important things that you would do is learn a lot about geometry, because actually laying out projects requires a lot of understanding of geometry. And there would be a little bit of algebra and some word problems in there as well. So really, a lot of our math is a review of a lot of the concepts that you would have taken in your high school years. All programs also get a communication course, or two of them, that would be under our related subjects. So this basically are a couple of courses that talk about workplace communication, how you would even do things like create a resume and present yourself, and that the soft skills that employers really want in the workplace. Also, as part of what we offer here in every trades program is a 3-week work practicum, which basically links up our students with people in industry, and that provides not only a really good look at basically what trade you want to get into, but it also gives an employer a really good look at you. On top of that, of course, we have trade-related courses that are very specific to the trade. And in terms of welding, what we're looking at here would be courses like flux core arc welding, gas metal arc welding, shielded metal arc welding, and oxy fuel cutting. So those are types of welding and cutting operations that we spend a fair bit of time on, both theoretically and in the shop. Most of your shop time would be made up practicing in these particular types of welding, concepts or areas. So you would work on projects using each of these welding methods to kind of move on with that. Just a quick shot of one of the insides of one of our facilities. This is our Moncton welding facility. It actually has capacity to train upwards of 70 welders. That's not what we do with our one-year pre-employment programs. That course is generally limited to around 30 to 32 participants, but the welding shop is designed for us to also train returning apprenticeship students, not only welding apprentices, but boilermaker apprentices and ironworker apprentices, which are fairly closely related to the field of welding. So it's a very, very well equipped, very modern welding shop that's indicative of what we do across the province. It's got a very high-end ventilation system in it, which is a source capture system that takes all the welding fume out of the equation, and all of our welding facilities across the province have very similar type systems. So we're very safe in terms of how we operate. You can see in this case that the booths are well lighted and spacious in terms of where a student would actually work. As I say, we're very safety conscious, and what we really want to achieve is that our welding students, when they leave us, have a good appreciation of what constitutes a safe welding shop and safe working conditions and what might not. So you get a little bit of picture of that. Okay, we're going to move on to our welder metal fabricator programs. Now, you see the word welder in this again. So we actually have 3 programs that are related and are, revolve around the trade of welding. One is the pure welding programs that we offer in Moncton and St. John. Next, sort of as a combo hybrid program, we offer 2 welder metal fabrication programs, one delivered at our Woodstock campus and one at our Miramichi campus. So, it's a combination of some of our areas of study that we offer in our welding program, plus it delves into some of the material that we offer in our pure steel fabrication, metal fabrication program. The reason why we developed these particular courses, these 2, is because the industry in those particular areas in Miramichi and Woodstock asked us to develop a different kind of graduate to generally service the industries that are in their area. They really want a grad that has not only fairly well developed welding skills, but the ability to actually fabricate. And we'll get into what fabrication in this world actually means when we talk about our metal fabricating program. So again, you're going to see some similarities here in coursework. You see safety practices, math foundations, blueprint reading is there again, which is a really important course for all of our metals programs that we offer, because in order to really do this trade or all of these trades well, you need to be able to roll out a set of drawings and actually interpret them and create something from those drawings. That's the way the industry works. There's also, in this particular program, a basic layout and drafting course that builds on the blueprint reading course that's offered there. There's metallurgy again, welding and cutting and material handling is there. And what's not here would be the shop-related SMAW, FCAW, welding, practical courses that are there. So again, that shop component is extremely important to welder fabricators. The picture you see here is a fabricator sitting on what's called a tube sheet. And basically this piece of metal that you see has been fabricated. So there's what a fabricator would do. You can see that there are a number of holes that have been cut in it. And if you look really closely, you see a little upright pipe that's sticking out of that. So this tube sheet, when it's finally finished, would stand upright and you would see horizontal tubing going through it. So it becomes a support structure for quite a number of, plant-based structures that might be built. In other words, this could represent tubing that's going through a, you know, it certainly could be like a nuclear power plant or a one of Irving's fuel-related plants. So this would be right down a welding and metal fabricators alley in terms of that sort of fabrication. So you see a combination of welding and fabrication there. So a little less welding, a little more fabrication here, but somebody who's a little bit more of an all-purpose type of grad for that particular industry. Okay, let's move on to steel fabrication. Now, remember I said that there are 3 of our programs that are fairly closely related. So there's welding, welder fitter, and steel fabrication. So welder being to the right and steel fabrication to the left in terms of what's happening. So for steel fabrication, students would learn a whole lot about the fabrication process. So that's into a good study of fabrication equipment, which would include plate rolls for rolling material, benders, shears, iron workers, all kinds of very heavy equipment that would actually help a fabricator basically make something from a set of blueprints. A steel fabricator would be the person that would, you know, maybe be a shipbuilder, rolling and shaping and moving those big pieces of bow or ship's hull into position. And a fabricator might do the welding or might simply tack those particular sections into place, and a qualified welder would come along and actually finish the welding process. So quite a bit less welding, quite a bit more fabrication in this particular program. Again, a really great look at how the process of fabricating all kinds of components that you would see out there. Welders, fabricators, welder fitters, all kind of work in the same sector at slightly different jobs. You would see all of these people in the manufacturing sector for sure, manufacturing components of different types. You would see them in the nuclear sector. You would see them in the transportation sector, potentially building trailers for, you know, heavy trucks, rail cars, welding all of that material that you might see in there, and you know, working at their particular trade within those sectors. Certainly the energy sector and refineries would be one where you'd see a pile of welders as well. Certifications for all of these welders are and fabricators are roughly the same. Welders and fabricators can follow the apprenticeship route and become indentured as apprenticeship, and after 2 years, 3 years of post certificate study can write and receive a Red Seal and a National Red Seal certification. And at the end of the presentation, I'll talk a bit about that. Not only is that pathway available to be a licensed welder, but you can also obtain certifications through the Canadian Welding Bureau. CWB is the short version of that. And as a welder, you can test manually in a shop for tickets that prove your ability to weld in various positions. So taking those tickets can actually allow you to weld within a shop in pretty much anywhere across Canada. New Brunswick also has a program that the Department of Labor runs, a ticketing system, and these are referred to as DOL tickets, and they have various weights with respect to what you can weld in the province of New Brunswick. So there are a number of certifications that at MBCC we help you to pursue. All of our programs, all of our students challenge for CWB tickets and are ready for or do at least one of the DOL tickets. So that's basically all of our welding, steel fabricator, welder fabricator programs that we offer around the province, and those are offered in various forms at Moncton, St. John, St. Andrews, Woodstock, and Miramichi. Just another quick look at a fabricator here. This little U-shaped bracket that this individual is working on is a hanger unit that you would actually hang a larger pipe inside of, and so it has to be fabricated to a fairly exacting specification. So that was part of a larger project that the steel fabricators were working on in that particular case. Okay, now we want to talk quickly about our 2-year programs. The first one, again, is related to welding, but man, it's like welding on steroids. It's a 2-year program, and students come into this in their first year, and they do learn welding and steel fabrication as a requirement. And they also start to learn about some of the things you see listed here, such as codes and specifications in that first year, welding safety, welding electricity, so that there's a good understanding of how power sources work. There's some computer skills. There are some really important communication courses that take place because welding technology graduates become NDE and sorry, I can rephrase that, destructive and non-destructive testing qualified people, and they're constantly writing reports on their findings, so that becomes part of it. So in the second year, welding technologists spend a lot of time within our applied research shop, for want of a better word, and that's part of that's pictured here on the left of your screen. And what you see there is our welding robot. We do welding robotics here under an automated welding course, and students use to learn to program this robot and weld with it. So we do orbital TIG, and we do submerged arc and other forms of automated welding processes. And in this lab, students also learn, for example, that they can link up their laptop computer with our welding power sources and track the progress of a weld as it's actually being laid in. So they get the ability to do that. And also in the second year, we have a fairly high-end metallurgy lab, and students are working in there on destructive and non-destructive testing of welds and metal. And that's equipped with the ability to X-ray welds. We have a large X-ray unit in there, what's called a wet bench, which allows us to put high doses of electricity through metal. And we can also use ultrasonics to examine what's going on. We also have a number of other pieces of equipment that help us do investigations on welds and on metals. So it becomes a really important technology to the welding world. So when these graduates get out there, they understand the process of welding for sure, and they also are in a position to give advice on welding procedures. They create welding processes, and they inspect welds after the fact. So, for example, you might see a welding technologist on a pipeline project somewhere, creating welding procedures, watching that whole process to make sure it's being handled appropriately, and then doing the post-weld inspection after the fact. So really neat program. Graduates here are just in high demand across the country, and it's one of very few programs in Canada like this. You'll see grads working at Bruce Power in Ontario, Point Lepreau, the shipbuilding, ongoing shipbuilding in Halifax, those sorts of things. So pretty cool stuff. Okay, so here's one of their projects, which was a mock-up of the inside of part of the Point Lepreau nuclear power station. We did this a few years back, and basically this module, one of three, was used to train workers inside of the Point Lepreau power station prior to it being refurbished. So it gave tradespeople an opportunity to actually see what they were going to be working on before the process of refurbishment actually took place. Project for us to be involved with, on time and on budget, by the way. Okay, the last couple of programs I'm going to talk about here would be our Machinist and our CNC Machinist program, which are fairly closely related. Now, our Machinist program by itself is a one-year pre-employment program that gets you ready to work in the world of a machinist. So the equipment that you see here, this is a lathe that's in operation. We teach all of the equipment that you would see in a machine shop to a fairly high standard. And you can see that the theoretical part of that is listed there. We've got lathes and saws and drill presses and milling machines and grinders and welding as part of that. That all refers to the theoretical aspects of each of those machines. On top of that, we again teach metallurgy in there, mathematics. Blueprint reading is really enhanced and really important to a machinist, and it's very different than the blueprint reading that we might offer in our welding related programs. We also teach physics and communication, and near the bottom you see we teach an introductory course in computer numerically controlled aspects of machining, or CNC. So when an individual finishes this course, they graduate as a machinist, have the ability to apprentice and go to work in all kinds of areas. You know, manufacturing for sure. They'll work in plants that are, you know, have machine shops so they can do their own maintenance, for example. You'll see these people in automotive and truck shops, big ones especially. All kinds of, there aren't too many sectors, trade sectors, except for, of course, those that use wood, that wouldn't see a machinist at some point. They're building parts for broken machines. They're building parts for new machines. They're building machines, and they're just incredibly important to the metalworking sector and indeed to manufacturing. Okay, so here's an example. I'll just get back there again. Here's an example of a student on a what's called a vertical mill, which in the first slide you saw a lathe, and this is a vertical mill where actually the part is put in a specialized vise, and what you see there is a head that comes down and actually performs operations on the part. So this is, you know, more or less a manual type process where the student, or you, if this is what you want to do, would learn how to perform all these operations to a very high standard of you know, tolerance in terms of what's there. Okay, so the other program that's related to this is our CNC Machinist. Now, the reason why it's related is because the CNC Machinist program, being a 2-year program, uses the Machinist program as its first year. So in order to be a machinist, you have to actually get into that first year of machining and be a competent, qualified machinist before you can get into this second year. Also, the good thing about this is if you decide to take the 2-year program and you finish the first year, then you can opt out. You can actually graduate with that 1-year machinist program. And there's also an opt-in option. So if you were to get into our CNC machining program and then, get into our machinist program and decide you wanted CNC, then you could do that. Imagine being a machinist working on a lathe or a vertical mill, as in the pictures, 1 year, and the next year you're sitting in front of a computer system doing 3D modeling and learning computer code and trying to figure out how to run a a lathe or a milling machine, a specialized lathe or milling machine by computer. And that's exactly what happens in that second year. We put your machining ability a little bit to the side, although it really enhances your understanding. And this is sort of where we go. This is an instructor who's teaching a 3D modeling software package here that we use to actually model parts. And when that particular modeling process is finished, students sitting in that classroom would learn how to convert those models into programming language that would allow them to run our CNC units that we have. And basically, here's a shot of one or two of them. The one slightly to the right is a vertical mill, and essentially what happens is the operator puts in a slug of metal and then puts in all the tooling that's required to build the part, and then runs the program that's been designed to do it. So the machine itself does all the cutting and manufacturing of the part itself. What's important about this is that you can produce multiple parts of a very, very high standard, a very high tolerance, every time you put a slug of metal in one of these machines, and you only have to program it once. So the manual machining, the one-year program, really has a huge use in the marketplace in the metalworking industry. And then there are specialized areas that actually have a huge use for CNC programming and the ability to run one of these machines. For example, surrounding the area here in PEI, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia is a fast-growing aircraft manufacturing parts industry that basically will take all of the grads here, as many as we can produce. These companies are building manufacturing parts for, people like Boeing and Bell Helicopter, and they require a very high-end approach to machining these parts. So this becomes your second year of our 2-year CNC or computer numerically controlled program. So you can come in, do your first year in machining and the manual machining side of it, and then move into the second year here. So it's a very advanced, still considered a trade, but a very advanced trade. So we have a lot of interest in it. So very quickly about apprenticeship here, as we close, NBCC very much is together with apprenticeship in producing highly skilled tradespeople. So to you, very quickly, what it means is apprenticeship has given NBCC the ability to offer its students an hour for hour credit for their complete experience at NBCC. So that means that when you come to school at NBCC, every hour you spend with us is creditable towards your apprenticeship with the Department of Labor in the province of New Brunswick. In fact, at the end of the year for all of our one-year trades programs, students have the ability to write their level 1 exam on their way to being a licensed tradesperson. In many cases, it means you've got to spend another couple of years working in the field because hours are really important, and coming back to NBCC to get your trades training, the level training that you require. But in that, this process of going to NBCC shortens up that whole apprenticeship process and gives you the tools you need to be successful. So again, reach out and contact me if you have any further questions about what's happening at NBCC and how we might be able to help you get this done.